Hi folks, good evening. We are back again to reading Swami and Friends by R.K. Narayan. We are starting chapter 9 titled School Breaks Up. With dry lips, parched throat, and ink-stained fingers, and examination on one side, exhaustion on one side, and exaltation on the other, Swaminathan strode out of the examination hall on the last date. So the exam has just got over and he's so tense, his lips are dry, throat is parched, and he has been writing with an ink pen and all his fingers are having ink stain, and he was exhausted, and at the same time he was exulting that the exams are over. Standing in the veranda, he turned back and looked into the hall and felt slightly uneasy. He wouldn't have felt more comfortable if all the boys had given their papers as he had done, 20 minutes before time. With his left shoulder resting against the wall, Shankar was lost to the world. Rajam, sitting under the second ventilator between the two third-form boys, had become a writing machine. Mani was still gazing at the rafters, scratching his chin with the pen. The P was leaning back in his seat, revising his answers. One supervisor was drowsing in his chair, another was pacing up and down with an abstracted look in his eyes. The scratchy noise of active nips, the rustle of papers, and the clearing of the throats came through the brooding silence of the hall. Now, you'll get the picture here. It's an exam hall. That means it's not their regular classroom. And the seating will all be shuffled so that two friends or two students from the same class do not sit next to each other. So, grade A and grade 1 and grade 2 may be next to each other. And so the seats are shuffled, and there'll be more space between these seats, and there'll be one teacher who will be going up and down looking whether anybody is doing any wrongdoing, like copying from a book or a paper or something, and there'll be another who will sit and look, and then they'll take turns. This teacher will go and sit down, and the other will take turns walking, or they'll walk, so that all the students have a fear all the time that some teacher will be coming, so they should not try to do any wrong thing in copying from the book or copying from notes or whatever. So, and before the exam, the question paper and the blank answer sheets will all be given, and they have to use it. We have already talked, they have bought the paper, ruled paper and blank paper, and the pin and the nibs and the ink. So they'll keep all that, see the question paper and see the question number 1, then they'll write the answer to question 1, 2, and so on. And all the questions, answers must be written and submitted. Now this Swami has just completed writing the answers and submitted to the teacher, and he has come out. Oh, he's so relieved. He has studied and he has tried to hold it in his memory, and now he has been under so much tension. He has gone in and written the examination and come out. And so he came out exhausted and exulting. So, and now he has come out 20 minutes before the time limit. Exams have a time limit. The entire paper should be answered within 1 hour. And if you have not finished answering within that 1 hour or 2 hours, then the teacher will take away your answer papers and you cannot write anything more. What you have written already up to that time is the marks. You will not get any more marks. So every student has to try and write the answers to all the questions within that time limit. And Swaminathan has completed it with 20 minutes before the time limit. Whereas all the other boys, Rajam and Mani and P and Shankar, they were still, somebody was doing this and somebody was doing the other. Swaminathan suddenly wished he had not come out so soon. But how could he have stayed in the hall longer? The Tamil paper was set to go on till 5 o'clock. He had found himself writing the last line of the last question at 4:30. Out of the 6 questions set, he had answered the first question to his satisfaction. The second was doubtful. The third was satisfactory. The fourth he knew was clearly wrong. But then he did not know the correct answer. So he had finished writing and there was nothing more to do inside the exam hall. So he had come out. The sixth answer was the best of the lot. It took only a minute to answer it. He had read the question at 2 minutes to 4:30, started answering a minute later, and finished it at 4:30. The question was, what moral do you infer from the story of the Brahmin and the tiger? Now they are explaining what the story is. A Brahmin was passing along the edge of a pond. A tiger hailed him from the other bank and offered him a gold bangle. The Brahmin at first declined the offer, but when the tiger protested his innocence and sincerity and insisted upon his taking the bangle, he waded through the water. Before he could hold out his hand for the bangle, he was inside the tiger. That was the story. So what was the moral? Swaminathan had never thought that this story contained a moral. But now he felt that it must have a moral, since the question paper specifically asked him. He took a minute to decide whether the moral was, we must never accept a gold bangle when it is offered by a tiger, or love of gold bangle cost one's life. He saw more logic in the latter and wrote it down. So he wrote down, love of gold bangle cost one's life. After writing, he had looked at the big hall clock. Half an hour more. What had he to do for half an hour? But if he felt awkward to be the first one to go out, why could not the others be as quick and precise as he? He had found it hard to kill the time. But why wasn't the paper set for 2.5 hours instead of for 3 hours? He had looked wistfully at the veranda outside. If only he could pluck up enough courage to hand in the paper and go out, he would have no more examination for a long time to come. He could do what he pleased, roam about the town in the evenings and afternoons and mornings, throw away the books, command Granny to tell endless tales, and so he could be very free and happy. He had seen a supervisor observing him and had at once pretended to be busy with the answer paper. He thought that while he was about it, he might as well do a little revision. He read a few lines of the first question and was bored. He turned over the leaves and kept gazing at the last answer. He had to pretend that he was revising. He kept gazing at the moral of the tiger story till it lost all its meaning. He set his pen to work. He went on improving the little dash under the last line indicating the end, till it became an elaborate and complicated pattern. He had looked at the clock again, thinking that it must be nearly 5 now. It was only 10 minutes past 4:30. He saw 2 or 3 boys giving up their papers and going out, and felt happy. He briskly folded the paper and wrote on the flap the elaborate inscription, Tamil paper, W.S. Swaminathan, First Form A Section, Albert Mission School, Malgudi, South India, Asia. The bell rang in twos and threes. Boys came out of the hall. It was a thorough contrast to the preceding 3 hours. There was the din of excited chatter. "What have you written for the last question?" Swaminathan asked a classmate. "Which? The moral question? Don't you remember when the teacher said in the class, 'Love of gold cost a Brahmin his life'?" "Where was gold there?" Swaminathan objected. "There was only a gold bangle. How much have you written on the question?" "1 page," said the classmate. Swaminathan did not like this answer. He had written only a line. "What? You should not have written so much." A little later, he found Rajam and Shankar. "Well, boys, how did you find the paper?" "How did you find it?" Shankar asked. "Not bad," Swaminathan said. "I was afraid of only Tamil," said Rajam. "Now I think I am safe. I think I may get passing marks." "No, certainly more. A class you will get," Shankar said. Look here. Look here, Swaminathan. Look here, Swaminathan said. "Some fools have written a page for that moral question." "I wrote only 3/4 of a page," Rajam said. "And only a little more than half," said Shankar, who was an authority on these matters. I too wrote about that length, about half a page," lied Swaminathan as a salve to his conscience, and believed it for the moment. "Boys, do you remember that we have no school from tomorrow?" "Oh, I forgot all about it," Rajam said. "Well, what are you going to do with yourselves?" somebody asked. "I'm going to use my books as fuel in the kitchen," Swaminathan said. "My father has bought a lot of books for me to read during the vacation. Sinbad the Sailor, Ali Baba, and so on," said Shankar. Mani came throwing up his arms and wailing, "Time absolutely insufficient. I could have dashed off the last question." The P appeared from somewhere with a huge streak of ink on his left cheek. "Hello, Shankar, first class?" "No, may hardly get 35. "You rascal, you are lying. If you get a first class, may I cut off your tuft?" Mani asked. The bell rang again 15 minutes later. The whole school crowded into the hall. There was joy in every face and good fellowship in every word. Even the teachers tried to be familiar and pleasant. Ebenezer, when he saw Mani, asked, "Hello, blockhead, how are you going to waste your vacation?" "I am going to sleep, sir," Mani said, winking at his friends. "Are you likely to improve your head by the time you return to the school?" the teacher asked. "How is it possible, sir, unless you cut off Shankar's head and present it to me?" Then they all laughed at his joke. There would have been roars of laughter at anything that the mood was such that they would have laughed at anything. In sheer joy, the drawing master was bringing down his cane on a row of feet because he said he saw some toes growing to an abnormal length. The headmaster appeared on the platform and, after waiting for the noise to subside, began a short speech in which he said that the school would remain closed till 19th of June and open again on the 20th. He hoped that the boys would not waste their time but read storybooks and keep glancing through the books prescribed for their next class, to which he hoped most of them were going to be promoted. And now, a minute more, there would be a prayer, after which the boys might disperse and go home. At the end of the prayer, the storm burst. With the loudest and lustiest cries, the gathering flooded out of the hall in one body. All through this vigorous confusion and disorder, Swaminathan kept close to Mani, for there was a general belief in the school that enemies stabbed each other on the last day. Swaminathan had no enemy as far as he could remember, But who could say the school was a bad place? Mani did some brisk work at the school gate, snatching from all sorts of people ink bottles and pens and destroying them. Around him was a crowd seething with excitement and joy. Ecstatic shrieks went up as each article of stationery was destroyed. One or two little boys feebly protested, but Mani wrenched the ink bottles from their hands, tore their caps, and poured ink over their clothes. He had a small band of assistants. Among them Swaminathan was prominent. Overcome by the mood of the hour, he had spontaneously emptied his ink bottle over his own head and had drawn frightful dark circles under his eyes with the dripping ink. A policeman passed on the road. Mani shouted, "Oh, policeman, policeman, arrest these boys!" A triumphant cry from 100 throats rent the air. A few more ink bottles exploded on the ground, and a few more pens were broken. In the midst of this, Mani cried, "Who will bring some Shingaram's turban? Who will bring me Shingaram's turban? I shall die it for him." Shingaram, the school peon, was the only person who was not affected by the spirit of liberty that was abroad. And as soon as he offered to dye his turban reached his ears, he rushed into the crowd with a big stick and dispersed the revelers. End of the chapter. Next time we'll read chapter 10. So that's it for tonight. Over. Well, bye bye. Thank you. Good night.